When you stop chasing, everything changes. The moment you pull your energy back and stop centering someone in your life who hasn't truly earned that position, you flip the entire dynamic without even saying a word. People feel it when your attention shifts. They notice when the constant flow of energy they've been soaking up suddenly dries up. That absence hits harder than any confrontation ever could. You're no longer waiting for their call, hanging on their texts, or adjusting your schedule to fit theirs. You've reclaimed your center, and in doing so, you send an unmistakable message without uttering a single sentence that you are not someone who can be taken for granted. Here's the thing, most people get caught in a cycle of over pursuing. They think, if I just give more, if I just try harder, if I just prove my worth, they'll value me. But the truth is, the harder you push for someone's validation, the more you telegraph that you don't believe you're enough as you are. That's when the other person starts pulling back because they feel the pressure of being the sole source of your happiness. But when you act like he doesn't matter, when you genuinely focus on yourself instead of bending your world to revolve around his, you take all that pressure off, and the result is often the complete opposite of what you expect. Instead of losing interest, he starts to wonder what happened, why your attention shifted, and most importantly, what he has to do to get it back. Detachment is not cruelty, it's clarity. It's knowing exactly where you stand and being at peace with walking away if the treatment you're getting doesn't match your value. When you stop making him the center of your emotional universe, you regain control over your own state of mind. You stop reacting to every text delay, every mood change, every little thing that once had the power to shake you. And when you're not reacting, he starts noticing the absence of your emotional feedback. People are addicted to the attention they get from others, especially when it's constant. And when that attention disappears, it feels like a loss they need to fix. This is where the psychology kicks in. When something is always available, people stop valuing it. It's human nature. You could have the most beautiful view outside your window, but after seeing it every day, you barely notice it. That's what happens when you're always emotionally available, always quick to respond, always there to reassure and comfort. But the moment you step back, the moment you stop supplying that emotional fuel, it creates a vacuum. And the human mind hates a vacuum. It will do whatever it takes to fill that space, and that's when he starts chasing. The beauty of detachment is that it doesn't require games or manipulation. You're not pretending you don't care, you're just genuinely not prioritizing him over yourself. You're living your life, handling your business, investing in your own happiness. The shift is subtle but powerful. You're not picking up the phone every time it rings. You're not rearranging plans at the last minute because he suddenly has time for you. You're not flooding him with updates, compliments, or reassurances. Instead, you're letting him wonder. You're giving him the space to miss you, to think about you, to realize the role you play in his life isn't as guaranteed as he thought. And here's the real magic and difference forces him to confront the possibility of losing you. When someone feels like they have you no matter what, they get lazy, they stop putting in effort because there's no risk. But when they sense you could walk away without hesitation, their survival instinct kicks in. It's not even about love or romance at that point, it's about ego, pride, and the human desire to maintain what we believe we own. Suddenly, your time feels like a privilege, not a given. Your presence feels like a win, not an obligation. And he starts to behave differently, more attentive, more considerate, more engaged, because deep down he doesn't want to be the one who loses his spot in your life. Detachment also works on you just as much as it works on him. The moment you stop over focusing on someone else, you start noticing how much mental and emotional energy you have to pour into yourself. You realize how much time you spent worrying about his responses, his moods, his level of interest. When you cut that cord, you suddenly have space to think about your own goals, your own happiness, and your own future. And ironically, this self focus makes you even more attractive. He can feel that you're not depending on him for your sense of worth, and that shift can be irresistible because confidence and independence are magnetic qualities. It's important to understand that acting like he doesn't matter is not about punishing him, it's about protecting your energy. It's about recognizing that chasing someone who isn't matching your investment is a losing game. The more you pull back, the more you reveal who truly values you and who is only there for the constant validation you were giving them. And when you see the difference, you stop wasting time on anyone who can't step up. So the next time you feel the urge to over pursue, to over explain, to over give, don't. Sit back, let him come to you. Let him feel the space you've created. Watch what happens when the attention he once took for granted becomes something he has to earn again. You'll be surprised how quickly he doesn't matter turns into he's trying everything to matter again. Because when you're no longer chasing, you're the one being chased. Emotional self control is the difference between someone who gets played by situations and someone who quietly shapes them. It's the discipline of staying centered no matter what's going on around you, and it's one of the most attractive and intimidating qualities you can develop. When you're in control of your emotions, you don't get pulled into unnecessary drama, you don't overreact to small things, and you don't hand over your power by showing that someone else can easily shake you. Instead, you remain steady, and that steadiness forces other people to adjust to you rather than you scrambling to adjust to them. Most people underestimate how much their reactions communicate. When you get upset, defensive, or desperate, you reveal where your weak spots are. You show the other person exactly how much influence they have over you, and if they're not coming from a place of love and respect, they'll use that knowledge to their advantage, sometimes intentionally, sometimes without even realizing it. But when you stay calm and composed, you send the message that you're not easily swayed, that you're not going to dance to anyone's emotional tune unless you decide to. That kind of self possession shifts the dynamic in your favor instantly. This doesn't mean you never feel anything. Emotional self control isn't about becoming a robot, it's about deciding how and when you express your feelings. There's a huge difference between feeling an emotion and reacting to it impulsively. You might feel annoyed, hurt, or even angry, but instead of firing off a text you'll regret or confronting someone in the heat of the moment, you take a breath. You let the emotion pass through you without letting it dictate your next move. This is how you keep the upper hand, not by suppressing your feelings, but by mastering your response. Think about how people behave when they know they can get a reaction from you. They push your buttons, test your patience, and sometimes deliberately provoke you just to see if they can. Every time you take the bait, you train them to keep doing it. But when you stop reacting, the game stops being fun for them. Suddenly they're left with their own frustration because they can't control your mood. And the truth is, when someone realizes they can't rattle you, it both frustrates and intrigues them. They start working harder to get a rise out of you, and in the process, they end up putting in more energy and attention than they did before. In relationships, romantic or otherwise, emotional self control creates stability and respect. If you can remain calm when someone else is losing their cool, you become the grounding force in the interaction. People are drawn to that. It makes them feel secure even if they don't fully understand why. On the flip side, when you match someone's emotional chaos with your own, you fuel the fire and lose credibility. People respect those who can keep their composure under pressure because it's rare, and rarity is valuable. Self control also keeps you from making decisions you'll regret. When you let emotions run the show, you make impulsive moves, blocking someone just to unblock them later, sending long paragraphs of explanation that weaken your position, or agreeing to things you don't actually want because you're afraid of losing them in the moment. But when you can sit with discomfort without immediately trying to fix it, you give yourself the space to act with purpose instead of reacting out of fear. That's the difference between acting from strength and acting from weakness. There's also a deep psychological advantage to mastering this skill. When someone realizes they can't read you easily, they start thinking about you more. If they don't know exactly what you're feeling, they have to guess, and guessing keeps you on their mind. They start replaying conversations, analyzing your tone, and wondering if you're as invested as they are. That uncertainty is powerful. It creates an internal tension in them that makes your attention feel more significant whenever they get it. Of course, emotional self control doesn't happen overnight. It's built through awareness and practice. You have to catch yourself in those moments when you feel the urge to react immediately. You have to get comfortable with silence and patience. You have to be okay with not giving instant answers and letting situations unfold without rushing to control them. It's not about winning a battle of wills. It's about living in a way where your peace of mind isn't up for negotiation. And here's the thing, when you operate from a place of emotional steadiness, you naturally attract people who value that steadiness. The ones who thrive on chaos, who need constant drama to feel alive, will get bored and drift away. But those who appreciate calm confidence will be drawn to you and treat you with the respect your self control commands. This filters out a lot of the wrong energy from your life without you having to actively push anyone away. In the end, emotional self control is freedom. Freedom from being at the mercy of someone else's moods. Freedom from being manipulated by guilt, flattery, or provocation. Freedom to choose your actions based on what serves you best, not on what temporarily soothes your insecurities. And when you combine that freedom with indifference toward anything that doesn't align with your worth, you become someone who's impossible to take advantage of and impossible to forget. The less accessible you are, the more valuable your attention becomes. It's a simple truth that plays out in every area of life. People tend to want what they can't easily have, and they tend to take for granted what's always right there waiting. Scarcity makes something feel rare and message your presence is cheap. If someone knows they can get your attention anytime they want without effort, they stop valuing it, they stop working to keep it because it feels guaranteed. And once that happens, the dynamic starts to shift in their favor and away from yours. Scarcity flips that equation. When you're selective about who gets your time, when you're not always reachable, when you're focused on your own life and your own priorities, you send the message that your attention is something rare and precious. This doesn't mean playing hard to get for the sake of a game. It means living in a way where your schedule, your goals, and your peace matter more than anyone's demand for instant access. When you operate from that place, people notice. They feel the difference between someone who's desperate for their time and someone whose time is already full of purpose. And here's where it gets interesting. When someone experiences that scarcity, their mind starts to fill in the blanks. If you're not always responding, they start wondering what you're doing, who you're with, and why you're not immediately available. That curiosity creates emotional tension. They think about you more, they look forward to hearing from you, and they start putting in more effort just to secure a place in your world. It's not manipulation, it's human psychology. We value what feels limited because we're wired to protect and pursue what we might lose. This is also why people often come running back after you pull away. When you were always available, they didn't feel the need to prioritize you. But once they sense that your presence is no longer guaranteed, the thought of losing it stings. It hits their ego, it sparks their desire, and it makes them remember all the ways you added value to their life. Suddenly, they're the ones initiating conversations, making plans, and trying to lock down your time. Scarcity also works because it signals high value without you having to say a word. If you're not available 24/7, it implies you have things going on, goals, passions, friends, a full life. That image is powerful because people are drawn to those who seem to have options and purpose. On the other hand, when you're too available, it can signal that you have nothing else going on, and that energy pushes people away. It's not fair, but it's the way human attraction and interest work. The key here is authenticity. Scarcity only works if it's real. You can't fake a full, interesting life, you have to build one. When your days are filled with things that matter to you, when you're truly invested in yourself, you won't have to pretend to be less available, you'll genuinely be less available. That's when your time becomes naturally scarce and naturally more valuable. What most don't realize is that scarcity benefits you just as much as it affects them. By not giving away all your attention, you protect your emotional energy. You avoid the burnout that comes from overinvesting in people who aren't giving back equally. You also create space for people to show you who they really are when they can't rely on your constant presence. Some will step up and match your effort, others will fade away, and that's your filter. The ones who fade were never truly invested in the first place. Scarcity forces a choice. It makes people decide whether they're willing to put in the work to be part of your life. Those who value you will rise to the occasion. Those who don't will drift off, leaving you free to invest in relationships that actually matter. That's not loss, that's clarity. So when you find yourself giving too much, too often, remember this: nothing precious is available without effort. Your attention, your time, and your presence are precious. Treat them that way, and others will too. And when they feel that scarcity, when they realize they can't take you for granted, it won't just get their attention, it will make them fight to keep it. Pulling back on over-texting, over-explaining, and over-justifying is one of the most powerful shifts you can make. Because silence creates space, and space makes people think. When you stop constantly feeding someone updates, reassurance, and attention, you give them the opportunity to feel your absence. That absence doesn't just leave a gap, it creates a mental itch they can't help but scratch. They start wondering what you're doing, why you're not as available, and whether something has changed. And that quiet curiosity grows, and curiosity is the spark that fuels pursuit. The reason this works is because constant communication kills mystery. When someone knows exactly where you are, what you're doing, and how you're feeling every moment of the day, there's no tension, no anticipation, no wondering. It becomes routine, and routine dulls excitement. But when you're more selective with your words and your responses, you break that pattern. You stop flooding them with information and instead let them sit with the unknown. That unknown can be far more powerful than anything you could say because it allows their mind to fill in the blanks, often in ways that make them miss you more. People underestimate the psychological pull of unanswered questions. If you always explain yourself, you remove all the suspense. If you respond instantly every time, you signal that your time isn't in high demand. But when you slow down your replies, when you give shorter answers instead of paragraphs, and when you don't feel the need to justify every choice you make, you communicate without saying it outright that your life is full, your time is valuable, and your attention is earned, not owed. This is not about ignoring someone to punish them. That's immature and obvious. It's about letting the natural rhythm of your own life take priority instead of shaping your day around their messages. Maybe you're busy with work, out with friends, or simply enjoying your own company. You don't have to explain all of that. You don't have to be on call for anyone. The less you volunteer, the more they start leaning forward trying to figure you out. That shift in energy is subtle but powerful. It moves them from a position of comfort to a position of pursuit. Think about it. If every time you text someone, they answer instantly with enthusiasm, you feel secure in their interest. You don't have to work for it. But if suddenly their replies are less frequent, a little shorter, and without over the top effort, you start to wonder. You check your phone more. You notice the time between messages. You start replaying conversations in your head, asking yourself if you missed something. That's exactly what happens to him when you stop over communicating. The silence becomes louder than any words you could have sent. There's also an important emotional element to this. Silence gives you space to stay in control of your own feelings. Overcommunication often comes from anxiety, from wanting constant reassurance that everything's fine. But that kind of reassurance seeking can backfire because it can come across as neediness. By holding back, you give yourself a chance to breathe, to let situations play out without jumping in to fix or explain them. You stop pouring your energy into chasing and instead allow him to feel the difference when you're not over-investing. When you're comfortable with silence, you become harder to read, and when someone can't easily read you, they become more attentive, more observant, more curious. They start noticing small details in your tone, your timing, your presence. That heightened awareness can deepen their emotional investment because now they're engaged in figuring you out. The mind craves resolution, and when you leave a little bit of mystery, they'll keep coming back to try to solve it. It's also worth noting that silence is a form of self-respect. You don't have to explain every decision, defend every choice, or justify every boundary. You're allowed to let your actions speak for themselves. You're allowed to step back and let someone show you whether they'll make an effort without you prompting them. And when you do that, you get a clearer picture of their true intentions. The ones who care will step forward. The ones who don't will reveal themselves by their inaction. In a way, using silence strategically is about shifting the burden of effort. Instead of you constantly feeding the connection, you allow him to feed it. You stop being the one who's always checking in, and you give him room to notice when you're not there. That moment of noticing is crucial. It's the moment he realizes your presence isn't automatic. And when presence isn't automatic, it becomes valuable. This is why silence often works faster than words when it comes to changing someone's behavior. If you tell someone they're taking you for granted, they might dismiss it or argue. But if you simply stop giving the same energy you used to, they feel the difference. They feel the gap, and that feeling hits much harder than any conversation could. So when you feel the urge to over-explain, over-text, or fill every pause with words, don't. Let the pause stretch. Let the silence do the work. Allow him to wonder, to miss you, to make the next move. Because sometimes saying less says everything. When you make yourself the priority and focus on building your own life, you send a clear signal that you're a person of high value. It's not something you have to announce or prove. It's something that becomes obvious in the way you move, the choices you make, and the energy you carry. When you're busy pursuing your goals, taking care of your body, nurturing your mind, and enjoying your passions, you naturally radiate a kind of confidence and self-assuredness that can't be faked. And that's exactly the kind of energy that makes someone stop in their tracks and take notice. The truth is, most people spend so much time trying to win someone else's approval that they neglect their own. They put their dreams on hold, push aside their interests, and pour their energy into making the other person happy, thinking that's the way to secure their place in their life. But the problem with that approach is it creates an imbalance. You end up over-investing, and in the process, you lose the very qualities that made you attractive in the first place. When you're no longer living for yourself, you become dependent on their attention to feel valuable, and that dependency is the opposite of high value. High value people don't have to tell you they're high value. You can feel it in the way they carry themselves. They have their own priorities, their own schedule, and their own sense of purpose that doesn't get thrown off every time someone else comes into the picture. They know that anyone who wants to be part of their life has to add to it, not distract from it. And when you embody that, you shift the dynamic without even trying. You stop chasing, you stop overgiving, and instead you create space for others to step up and meet you where you are. This is where it gets powerful. When you live like this, you stop needing to control the outcome with anyone. If they match your effort, great. If they don't, you still have a life you love. That detachment is magnetic because it shows you're not desperate, and desperation is the fastest way to kill attraction. People are drawn to those who seem fulfilled and complete on their own because it makes them wonder what's so special about your life and your mindset. It's also worth pointing out that focusing on yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. If you're not feeding your own soul, you can't show up fully for anyone else. When you neglect yourself, you run out of energy, you lose your spark, and you start resenting the very people you've been trying to please. But when you take the time to invest in your health, your growth, your finances, and your passions, you operate from a place of abundance instead of lack. And that abundance shows in everything you do. It's in the way you speak, the way you move, the way you enter a room. When a man sees that you have your own life and your own mission, it changes the way he interacts with you. He realizes he's not the center of your world, and that unsettles him in the best possible way. It makes him want to prove himself worthy of a spot in your life. If he thought your attention was guaranteed before, now he understands it's something he has to earn and keep. And the more he works for it, the more invested he becomes. This is also how you avoid losing yourself in a relationship. When your identity is tied too closely to someone else, you risk falling apart when they pull away. But when you're rooted in your own purpose, you stay grounded no matter what's happening in the relationship. You're not waiting for someone to make you feel good about yourself. You already do. That makes you immune to a lot of the push and pull games people try to play. And here's something people rarely say out loud: when you're deeply focused on your own growth, you stop tolerating mediocrity from others. You start to see clearly who adds value to your life and who's just taking up space. You become less patient with empty promises and inconsistent behavior because you know your worth and you have better things to do than entertain people who don't respect it. That's not arrogance, it's self-respect. The beauty of this mindset is that it works in every area of life. Whether it's dating, friendships, or even professional relationships, the principle is the same. When you bring a full, confident, self-sufficient version of yourself to the table, you set the tone. You're no longer just hoping to be chosen, you're doing the choosing. You decide who gets access to you, and that shift changes everything. And when it comes to attraction, nothing is more powerful than a person who genuinely enjoys their life. When someone sees that you're out there making moves, building something meaningful, and staying true to yourself, they can't help but be drawn in. They want to be part of your world, not because you beg them to, but because your world is a place they don't want to miss out on. So when you focus on yourself, you're not pushing anyone away. You're actually pulling the right ones closer. You're filtering out the ones who only show up when it's convenient for them. And you're making space for the ones who are willing to step up and match your energy. And in the process, you become a person who doesn't just attract attention, you attract respect, admiration, and lasting desire. Not revealing every thought or feeling keeps you unpredictable, and unpredictability is one of the most powerful forces in attraction. When someone can't quite figure you out, when they can't easily label your emotions or predict your next move, they stay mentally engaged. They keep coming back for more because there's always something they don't fully understand about you. That element of mystery is what keeps relationships exciting, and it's what separates the people who are merely liked from the people who are unforgettable. The problem with being completely transparent, especially early on, is that it removes all the tension. If someone knows exactly how you feel at all times, exactly what you're thinking, and exactly what you'll do next, there's no challenge left. Humans are wired to chase what they can't fully grasp. That's why the most memorable connections often involve a little bit of uncertainty, enough to keep the other person guessing, enough to make them work for your attention and your approval. Mystery doesn't mean being dishonest or playing games. It's about maintaining a certain level of privacy and self-possession. You don't need to give a running commentary on every emotion you feel or every thought you have. You don't need to respond with full explanations to every question. Sometimes a short, confident answer is more intriguing than a detailed one. Sometimes not responding right away says more than an immediate reply ever could. And sometimes letting a question hang without rushing to fill the silence makes the other person lean in just a little bit closer. When you keep parts of yourself reserved, you create a sense of depth. People sense that there's more to you than what you're showing, and they want to uncover it. They'll put in more effort to understand you, to earn your trust, to get closer. That pursuit is where attraction thrives. If they feel like they've already figured you out too soon, their interest often starts to fade, not because you're any less valuable, but because the excitement of discovery is gone. The irony is you can be completely genuine and still maintain mystery. You're not pretending to be someone you're not. You're simply not giving everything away right away. Think of it like a great book or movie. If the ending is revealed in the first 5 minutes, the entire journey loses its pull. But when the plot unfolds gradually with twists and moments of surprise, you're hooked until the very end. The same goes for how you reveal yourself to someone. Let them experience you over time. Give them glimpses, not the full story all at once. This is especially effective when combined with the other tactics: indifference, self-focus, scarcity, emotional control, and silence. When you're already not chasing, when you're selective with your attention, when you're calm under pressure, and when you don't feel the need to fill every space with words, you naturally become harder to read. That difficulty is exactly what makes you so compelling. They can't put you in a neat box, and that keeps you at the forefront of their mind. Another important part of mystery is unpredictability. If you're always available at the same times, always respond the same way, and always agree to the same patterns, you become routine. But when you mix things up, sometimes you're available, sometimes you're not, sometimes you share openly, sometimes you keep it brief, you keep the dynamic fresh. It's not about being inconsistent to confuse them, it's about showing that you have a full life that doesn't run on their schedule. That unpredictability makes your presence feel more like a privilege than an expectation. And here's where mystery becomes truly powerful: it forces them to invest more emotionally. When someone is unsure exactly where they stand with you, they tend to put in more effort to secure their place. They pay more attention to what you say, they analyze your words and actions, and they work harder to win your approval. In doing so, they're investing more time, thought, and energy into you, and the more someone invests, the harder it is for them to walk away. It's also worth noting that mystery isn't just about what you don't share, it's also about how you carry yourself. Your body language, your tone of voice, and your energy can all add to the sense that you're not easily figured out. Making eye contact without rushing to fill silence, smiling subtly instead of giving away your full reaction, moving with calm confidence, all of these things make someone feel like there's more beneath the surface. That's the kind of presence people can't forget. When you live with this mindset, you stop feeling the need to constantly prove your worth. You know your value and you let others discover it gradually. You give them the opportunity to work for your trust, to earn your openness, and in doing so, you create a relationship dynamic where they are the ones putting in consistent effort. And because you never give everything away at once, they never quite reach the point where they feel they've figured you out completely, which means their interest stays alive. Mystery is not about manipulation, it's about self-respect. It's about understanding that you don't owe the deepest parts of yourself to someone who hasn't earned them yet. When you live like that, you protect your energy, you maintain your power, and you give people the space to rise to the challenge of winning you over. And when they finally do get closer, it means more because they had to work for it.